Hey folks, and welcome to week 12 of DMD 330 social media. How is everybody? I hope you are doing well, working hard, and staying safe. Okay, so this week in week 12, we are going to move on to some new content, and we're going to move away from visual content and start working on our radio ads. Now, I mentioned last week to start thinking about them a little bit, but this week we're actually going to start creating them. Okay, so let's take a look at the syllabus. So here we are in week 12. Normally we would have met in person April 13th, 15th, and 17th. Obviously today is the 13th, and if we go back to week 11, you guys turned in at the end of last week all of your final online content, which included your Facebook content, your Instagram content, your Twitter content, and your 3 online ads for your marketing campaign. So those are the final versions, right? You turned in your drafts before that, and then you turned in your final versions on Friday the 10th, and so I will be reviewing all of those, giving you guys final feedback on them. And of course, there's still an opportunity to make changes to them after I give you that feedback, because of course, everything is due at the very, very end of the semester in a big final presentation. So you can certainly continue to make changes to those if you need to. All right, so while those are being reviewed by me, you guys over the weekend wish to start thinking about your radio advertisements. And so that's what we're going to get into this week. So let's take a look at some pre-reading. So the evolution of radio is a handout that you can find in announcements. If you go to announcements and go down to week 12, you'll see that there's an evolution of radio broadcast announcement, which will take you right to this reading here. So this is your textbook reading for the week. So read this first before you get rolling on actually building your radio ads. It's important to understand sort of the evolution of radio because radio as a broadcast delivery method has changed, even though we still have broadcast radio for sure. The idea of how it's broadcast is very different and impacted heavily by the digital evolution that has happened, and of course the internet. Ground-based radio has moved to the internet, and even though it still gets broadcast over the air, it uses things like cell phone towers and other digital technology. Furthermore, of course, we can get streaming radio from a variety of sources through the World Wide Web. And the majority of major radio markets have been moved into an online environment through companies like iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, and other types of digital-based platforms. So despite the evolution in the way in which radio is put together in broadcast, things like radio ads and commercials still remain. They are still driven by the sale of radio ads. Most radio programming and broadcasters still make money because of radio ads, and they use that to keep the business rolling and keep the lights on. And so we are going to make some radio ads. So if you'll notice over in our semester assignment, if you go to your semester project, that we are still under part 6, social media campaign content, which you might find surprising because the deliverables, of course, up through last week were Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and your display ads. So those make sense to fall into social media. But why are radio ads social media? And again, it's because of the delivery method being mostly internet-based these days. So we are going to create these in a format that is germane to that, as put together by companies like iHeartRadio. So let's take a look at the specific radio ads. So you're going to make 3 of them, right? Now it says copy for radio ads. Remember, copy simply means the written word. It's your writing. So first you're going to write your radio ad. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And that's pretty much this week. And then next week, you're going to record your radio ads. You're going to actually make the recording. So we're going to go over today how that's all going to happen and when everything is due. Now, if we look down at the specifications of the radio ads at the bottom here, so all radio copy is written in 12-point type, either Courier or Helvetica, and double-spaced. We're going to look at some examples in a little bit, which you can find in the Week 12 folder under Files. And like I said up here, you're going to make 3 different radio ads. You're going to do a 60-second ad, which is approximately 100 to 120 words. Why do I say approximately? Well, it depends on how quickly you speak. If it's a fast-paced ad where the person doing the reading, the voice talent, is reading quickly, then you're going to get through more words quickly. If it's a more relaxed ad and the personality is more laid back, well, then you're going to take more time to get through less words. And so 60 seconds does not equate to exactly the same amount of words. It depends, which is why it says to next to each of these, be sure to test read to time. Read them yourselves. Read them out loud. Have your stopwatch going on your phone so that you can test how long it takes to read them. Read them at different speeds. And we'll talk more about reading personality in a little bit. So you're going to make a 60-second ad, you're going to make a 30-second ad, and then you're going to make a 15-second ad. Similar to the online display ads that we did last time around. Those are sold in specific sizes, large rectangles, half pages, large mobile banners, and others. And each of those sizes has a specific price. In radio advertising, it works exactly the same way. Radio broadcasters sell airtime for radio ads based on preset lengths of radio ads. 60-second, 30-second, and 15-second are the three most common. So that's why we're going to be doing that. So we'll take a closer look at what those look like in terms of writing. But let's go back to the syllabus for a second just so we can talk about deadlines. So you'll see here that this week, all that is due is your radio advertisement ideas, meaning that when you go over to Canvas and go to assignments, you'll see that there is a place to turn in your radio advertisement right here, deliverables 23 through 25. Now, the final is not due for a while, but you can still use this space in Canvas to upload your ideas. So in a Microsoft Word document or a Google Doc, you can simply write up your ideas for your radio ad, write some test scripts, give me a rough overview of what you guys have in mind as a team, what you guys are thinking about in terms of personality and voice. Upload them here anytime this week, and I will give you guys some feedback on that. And then we'll use this exact same space in Canvas to upload the finished ones, both the written scripts and the audio file. So you can overwrite those. So this week we'll be using it just for what we'll call sort of a draft, your ideas. Now, in looking at that again, back in the syllabus in terms of due dates, then either sometime this week or into next week, you're going to actually write out the radio ads, write the scripts for them, which I'll show you some examples in a minute. And then between now and the 24th, you guys will then record those radio ads and actually make them yourself. And I know that might sound daunting, but it's actually really easy to do. I'm kind of doing it now in making this video for you. And I'll show you how to do that using some simple, easy tools. So those are all due on the 24th, final, both the written script and the recorded audio for your radio ads. Okay, so that's the timeline. Now let's talk about what the written script is going to look like. So again, in the week 12 folder under files, you're going to find some examples of scripts. These are ones that actually I wrote a bunch of years ago when I used to write radio copy for a previous creative job that I had. And so these are formatted in a way that are standard radio copy. Now they might look funny because they're written in a way that writing teachers would probably tell you don't write that way. Like, for example, why are we writing all in caps? That just seems like you're yelling at me. But all of the things that are on these scripts are here for a reason. So I have 4 examples up here. We'll go through them. But I just want to go through the structure of how these are written. And again, you can pull these right out of files from week 12, so you can simply mimic this structure in your Microsoft Word or Google Doc file. So we need 1 page per radio ad. So you're doing 3 radio ads, so we need 3 pages. It can all be in the same document or it can be 3 separate documents. Doesn't matter to me. Now, similar to the way you would address a letter to somebody, in the upper right corner is who is receiving your radio ad. This is the person I worked with at 105.7 WROR at the time, who was an account executive and worked in traffic for radio. Now, of course, you don't have a real person that you're sending yours to, so you guys can certainly just make somebody up to put in these spots, but this is normally where this goes, so that when it's received by the radio station, they know who it's going to. And of course, these were generally just sent by email, but we still format them in this letter format. Then over here, again, similar to a business letter, you have who it is coming from. So in your case, it is coming from your marketing company, not your client. Not the client who is participating in your charity event, not from the charity event, obviously, but from your marketing company. So you guys all gave yourselves names for your marketing company, so that's who it's coming from. You can have a point of contact. In this case, it was me. And of course, make up an address or something. It doesn't particularly matter. Now, this is where we really get into the formatting of the radio ad. Now, the formatting is important because there are two types of people that need to see this document. The first person, of course, is the person you're sending it to up here, your account executive. They need to be able to see this information and then plug it into their system. And then, of course, the other person would be the voice talent, the person who's going to be reading the copy. And this is why it is generally put together this way. So somewhere at the top here, before you get into the actual copy, you have to tell them whether it's a 60, a 30, or a 15-second spot. That's important. The schedule, you guys can, again, just make this up or just put in how many days you would like it to run for. This is sort of the imaginary part of the assignment, but normally you would have pre-negotiated with your account executive when you want these to run, what days, and how many per day. So this was running for 3 days in April and 2 spots per day, and then how many spots total. I know the math seems simple, but you have to spell everything out so there's no misunderstanding about what they're charging you for, right? Then you would always put in a note, this is sort of a creative note, about what type of voice talent you would like to do your radio copy read. Now, of course, you can't pick the voice talent. That is done by the radio station. But you can certainly make a suggestion. They generally have a variety of voice actors they work with, and so you can sort of put in a little bit about personality. Nothing too long. As you can see here, I kept it pretty brief, right? Perky female voice with upbeat jazz-like music in the background. Simple. Nothing super complicated. And if you look at some of these other examples, they all say similar things. Young, perky female voice. Young voice, upbeat. This one's non-gender specific. It didn't matter whether it was a male or a female. This one here, smooth female voice, jazz-like music. So not perky, smooth, a little more laid back. Now, of course, the type of voice you choose has a lot to do with the type of message you're getting across in your radio ad. So think about, what do you want it to sound like? What type of person would you like to be reading this, and how does it make sense with your copy? Okay, now we get into the meat and potatoes of it, which is the actual copy. Now, the reason it's written double-spaced, all in caps, is because it makes it easier for the voice talent to actually read it. Oftentimes, the voice talent only has a short period of time to pre-read your copy and practice with it. This is not like voice talent for, say, an animated movie or a video game where they spend months and months on it. Radio copy gets turned around in days, and so the voice talent very often just has a short period of time to read through your copy a few times, memorize it, and then they generally have to read right from the script because they haven't had time to fully memorize it. And so all caps, simple Times New Roman font, double-spaced, makes it super easy to read. Also notice that anywhere you want them to emphasize something, put a little oomph into their voice, when they're saying something, you should bold it. Now, you can use simple type styling, but nothing fancy. You can bold things, you can italicize things, and you can underline things. Bolding generally means that they would be reading it a little louder with a little more emphasis. Italics generally means that they would put a little more personality into it. I know that's kind of vague, but voice actors usually know what that means. And then underlining is a different type of emphasis than sort of raising your voice more. You would just sort of maybe slow down the way you would speak it or whatnot. Now, I don't have anything underlined here, but you get the idea. And now, as far as how it's written, well, I'll leave it to you to sort of deconstruct these examples I gave you and see how they're written. They're generally more conversational than, say, articles would be written, right? They don't need to be complete sentences. You can use fragments. M dashes, which are the long dashes like this one here, are generally helpful because it tells the voice actor that there's a place they need to pause in the reading. Commas are a short pause. M dashes are a longer pause. If you do 3 dots, dot, 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 the ellipses, that is an even longer pause. So they all indicate sort of a way to read something. Now, Normally, the people who are the voice actors are, of course, not the same people that write the copy, but in your case, that's going to be it. You guys are going to write the copy, and one of you, or maybe all of you, are going to take turns reading the copy and recording it. But either way, as you're writing it, read it out loud so you get an idea of what it sounds like. So certainly work that out. Also, a lot of times things are spelled out that you normally wouldn't. So for example, at the bottom here is the URL, the web address, and instead of writing it the way you would normally write a web address with an actual dot, you write the word dot so you know that the voice actor will say that out loud. But other things like simple numbers like 126, you can just write as regular numbers. That would actually get a little confusing if you wrote it out. However, shorter numbers like this here, this is meant to be a price, only $7.99 is a price. Now, the way we normally write prices are to put the dollar symbol at the beginning, the currency symbol. You don't do that in radio copy because you can't say that. You only write what is to be said. So think about how people actually talk and try to be as naturalistic as possible. And of course, you can add as much or as little personality to this as you want. Read through the examples I gave you, and you'll see what I mean in terms of personality. Try to be consistent in the type of personality that you're showing. Now this one here was for some flowers, and then this example here that I gave you is a Valentine's Day one. This one's got a little more sass to it, as it were, and you'll see that there's two separate copies here because one version was going to run on one day and another version was going to run on a different day. And these, of course, are 30-second ads. Again, there's an underlined word, so that's meant to have a different type of emphasis than just bolding it. Also, things like exclamation points come in handy if you really want to make a sort of a heavier call to action, like really implore people to go do something. So, but these Valentine's ones definitely have way more sass than the flower ones do. This one here, right, is holiday dinner ones. This is a lot more pleasant and laid back. And this is a short one. This is a 30-second one too. And then this one here is for Easter, which again is a little more laid back. You wouldn't use the same sort of sassy attitude for this that you would for this necessarily, but that's entirely up to you guys. Okay, so hopefully reviewing these examples will give you a good idea as to how to structure it. Now, of course, this week you are going to come up with some ideas for these and maybe write a draft of them so that I can take a look at it and give you some feedback. So get together with your team and figure out what these are going to sound like, how you're going to write them. Now, eventually, and when I say eventually, I mean next week, you are going to record these. Now, there's a bunch of ways you can do this. You can certainly record on your phone and then send yourself the audio files and then edit them using a piece of software. Or you can record directly into your laptop. You don't have to have any sort of expensive setup. If you have earbuds or AirBuds, that will work just fine. You can speak into your laptop or your phone's microphone, so long as you're in a very quiet space. A good rule of thumb is to record either in a very small room or record like in a closet, or in your car is actually a great place to record because there's very little outside sound. And then once you have the recording, no matter how you've gone about recording it, you can then put it into a program like, for example, GarageBand. Now, GarageBand, of course, comes free with all Macs. If you don't have it on your Mac, you can download it from the App Store for your laptop. And it's completely free, and it's a multi-track recording system. If you've never used it, it's pretty easy to use. So certainly check out some tutorial videos on that. But all you really need to do when you open it up is choose an audio file that you're going to make, a brand new audio file that'll open it up into the program. And of course, you can work it a bunch of different ways. But all you really need is 2 tracks. Your first track here, audio 1, which you can rename, would essentially be you recording your voice. And then once you do that, you can lay some music in behind it on another track. Now, since we're only using these in class, you can use pretty much any music you want, but I would try to stay away from copywritten material just so we don't get into trouble with that. But that being said, GarageBand comes with a ton of pre-recorded loops, which are actually recorded by professional musicians for Apple. So up here on the right is the loop browser. It's in the middle, and this takes you to a ton of loops. Now, some of them are sound effects, some of them are short. Many of them are jingles or pieces of music, and you can string them together to make a variety of different things. So play around with them. But for example, since it's a radio ad, right, you don't need a full-on song. You just need some background music. So play around with a bunch of them and see what you like. When you first download GarageBand, you might have to take a little time to download the loops because they don't come fully loaded with it. But once you find one that you like, you just pick it up from the loop editor and drop it over here. And you can see now I have this one here, which is pretty good. And now that doesn't look very long, right? But I can simply extend it by dragging it out as long as I need it to be. So this is why you would do your audio recording first and then put in your music so that you know how long you need it. The reason they're called loops is because they begin and end in a sequence that seamlessly loops from one section to the next. So it just feels like an endless song, which is great. See, this one here. Pretty good, right? And you can do simple things like adjust the volume of it over here. So make sure that your speaking volume for the copy read is not too loud. You don't want to blast people out, but not so soft that the music overwhelms it. So keep it sort of like a nice medium high, play around with it. And then the music, of course, you want it to be a little lower than the speaking voice. This is a really simple way to do this with just 2 tracks. Your voice would be recorded here and then the background music here. But now if you have more experience with audio editing software, you are of course completely welcome to get as complex as you would like with this. Have some fun with it, but I don't want to put you in a situation where you have to learn more than this. So certainly get creative with it. Hopefully somebody in your group has some familiarity with this. Now once you're done with this, of course, you can share your file to a variety of places. My best advice would be to send it to SoundCloud. Now, if you're not familiar with SoundCloud, SoundCloud is essentially the YouTube of audio. This is SoundCloud, works exactly like YouTube except for audio files. All sorts of people, from spoken word artists to poets to musicians you may or may not have ever heard of, put their music up here. You can simply make a free SoundCloud account, just like you can make a free YouTube account, and then it will host your audio. So this here is mine, right? This is me. And these are all my tracks, things that I have worked on. And so you can do that with your radio ads. So I suggest that somebody on your team makes a SoundCloud account. Use this to send your GarageBand files to, right? That's not GarageBand, that's iMovie, wrong one. Send your GarageBand files to SoundCloud, and that will give you a platform upon which to mount your radio ads when they're all done. And then when it comes time to turn them in Canvas, you can simply go to Share and copy and paste this link into your Canvas spot. So this way we don't have to upload massive audio files. It'll go a lot more smoothly. Okay, so hopefully that is all clear. Don't panic if it's not. We'll go over the recording of the radio ads again the beginning of next week. Again, this week, all you're really doing is coming up with your radio ad ideas and begin writing them and put a draft onto Canvas, and I'll take a look at them. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, be sure to email me and I'll help you out. And of course, take a look at announcements for upcoming online office hours. You can certainly poke in there whenever you need to. All right, thank you.